Welcome back to Breaking Down the Brief. I'm Allison, a current intern at Issue Voter. This August, as Congress is in recess, we're providing 3-minute, nonpartisan, accessible explanations of recent Supreme Court decisions. For Day 2, we're considering the case Smith Wesson Brands, Inc. via Estados Unidos Mexicanos, decided on June 5, 2025, concerning aiding and abetting liability in cross-border business concerns. In August of 2021, the Mexican government sued U.S. firearm manufacturers seeking $10 billion in damages. The complaint alleged that Smith Wesson Brands, Inc. were liable or legally responsible for the harm perpetuated by gun violence in Mexico because the firearms they produced were being dealt and supplied to gun traffickers and drug cartels. The Protection of Lawful Commerce in Arms Act, PLCAA, protects gun manufacturers from certain lawsuits claiming third-party wrongdoing. Under the predicate exception, however, the PLCAA permits lawsuits where the claimed harm stems from manufacturers knowingly violating the law. There must be proximate cause, meaning a sufficient, direct, and foreseeable connection between the defendant's action and the plaintiff's injury. Under aiding and abetting, manufacturers violate the law if they help someone else break it, even if the manufacturers themselves did not personally carry out the unlawful conduct. In response to this lawsuit, the district court dismissed the case, holding that the PLCAA protected Smith Wesson Brands, Inc. from liability. The Mexican government appealed this decision to the First Circuit U.S. Court of Appeals, which reversed, holding that the predicate exception did apply. The Court of Appeals remanded the case, sending it back to another court for further action. When the Supreme Court agreed to hear this case, they returned to its central question: are U.S. gun manufacturers liable for cartel violence in Mexico? In a unanimous ruling, the Supreme Court held that no, U.S. gun manufacturers in this case were not liable because PLCAA protection applied. The court argued that in order to be held liable, the defendant must have taken specific action with the intention to help break the law. Third-party wrongdoing using items obtained through passive transactions with manufacturers that anyone could have engaged in does not equate to aiding and abetting. The U.S. gun manufacturers sold their firearms to wholesalers, who sold them to dealers, who sold them to gun traffickers, who then sold them to the cartels. The manufacturers neither affirmatively nor intentionally assisted the gun traffickers. This case matters because it involves a foreign government attempting to hold American companies liable for criminal acts taking place in that foreign country, which could impact foreign affairs and trade. In siding with U.S. gun manufacturers in this case, the court underscored PLCAA's core protection of manufacturers from liability for third-party misuse. This decision reaffirms legislative rather than judicial control over gun regulation. As these legal battles continue, here are some sources for further exploration. This was Day 2 of Breaking Down the Brief with Issue Voter. Follow us to stay up to date on more Supreme Court cases. Issue Voter is a nonpartisan platform that makes civic engagement accessible, efficient, and impactful. Visit issuevoter.org to learn more. Sign up to stay up to date with legislation and make your voice heard.